Welcome. I'm Rick Ricart and my beautiful wife,
Amy Ricart.
Amy Ricart, and we are here to talk about Imagine Tours and literally how we got started,
How it all began.
how it all began. So we started back in,
Imagine, or when we started doing this?
well, why don't you tell us when we first started? Like actually, even before Imagine, how's
Even
that?
before Imagine. So we're going to go back to prehistoric days. No. Those were the early days of Christian travel. Your dad started the business.
My father started the business, Rick Ricart Sr., 1972, with Travel Link Tours International. We were known as TTI Travel in Chicago.
Yeah.
And actually, prior to that, the real story was my father actually started with 5 or 6 other men in 1959, bringing the first evangelical Christians to Israel. And they were part of the very first company that actually existed, which was actually called Wholesale Tours International, WTI, Wholesale Tours International. And Dr. Ridgway, Rick Ricart, Pano Nastasato, there was Nick and Ray, Mancino and Masillo, and one other, I'll forget the name, I apologize, but they kind of were the original pioneers that actually started the business. So that was 1959. Just to put in perspective, Israel only became a nation in 1948. So 11 years later, they were bringing groups from North America via Europe and continuing on to Israel. And keep in mind, that time, the airport in Israel was quite small.
Not like it is today.
Well, there was no international real travel, so it was very tiny, one of the smaller airports. I believe it was called Lot Airport back then. And most of the flights were, I would say, from the stories that I remember hearing growing up and the information was, most of the flights came via Europe and they flew into Amman, Beirut, Cairo. That was really how you got to Israel. Nobody flew into what today is Ben Gurion Airport.
Correct.
So today we have it very easy in comparison, very advanced. They really paved the way, literally, when you think about it. Even when we look back today at the border crossings of what Israel has, going to Jordan, going to Egypt, they're the same border crosses today as they were even back then. And from what I hear from many of the guides, even in Israel, they would tell you it goes back to the original days, give or take maybe 50 or 100 yards. But this is kind of how it all started in 1959.
Way before our time.
Way before our time. And then I can tell you the gentlemen decided to all go off on their own and start their own businesses. As today, that was in 1972. So my father's company back then, Traveling Tours, was 1972 up until 9/11. And then he kept his doors open for almost 22 months after 9/11 just to operate the tours that were on the books at that time.
Right.
So that's just a little background.
Right.
And then, actually, I remember saying to my father, do I really want the business? And he said no, because nobody was going to travel after 9/11. He said, I wouldn't invest any money in being a tour operator.
But even at that point, we had already stepped away.
We had just chosen to step away, correct?
We had already left that company just to
Correct.
make things easier for him,
Correct.
and kind of went our own way for a little while.
Correct. I think we stayed until the last group that we had. We still had business on the books even after 9/11, because even our church there down in Cape Christian and some of the others in Cape Coral actually traveled after 9/11 with a few other churches that still wanted to go to Israel. And then nobody traveled for 2.5, almost 3 years.
Yeah, it was a long time. It
A
felt
long
like.
time. So I would say we, took a sabbatical, ended up getting another job in the real world, and that was a great experience. So,
Yeah.
and then after that time period, the business came back just as my father said it would. Literally, if he was here today, it's crazy how our parents actually know what they're talking about. And he knew exactly what he was saying. And he says, I wouldn't invest any money for about 2.5, 3 years. And almost 3 years to the day, I get the first call, and it was from Willow Creek Community Church there in Barrington, Illinois, saying,
wanting to go back.
wanting to say, Rick, we've traveled with you multiple times. We want to take a trip to Israel. Can you put this trip together for us?
Right.
And that was the first booking that we had. And then, if you don't mind me sharing, I was moonlighting and basically handling as a consultant for almost a year to a year and a half of about a dozen groups that I have scheduled to Israel. And I'm not officially in business other than, yes, we have Imagine
were just
Tours. We were just
facilitating.
facilitating.
Yes.
And then, as things would have it, we officially opened up our doors, like incorporated, did everything in 2005.
Correct.
So that's really how Imagine started. So today it's 2025, so 20 plus years.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty exciting ride. So why don't you tell me your thoughts on?
On starting Imagine?
Yeah.
Back in 2005?
Sure.
It was a total leap of faith at that moment because I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. We had decided that that was the best option for us.
Yep.
You were doing your other job. And we just kind of looked at each other one night and said, maybe we need to start doing this again. So it started out of our house with our kids. They were younger at the time. And we organically grew the business. I mean, we worked out of the home for a few years before we finally were like, all right, this is really getting off the ground. We need a little bit more space. We need to hire some more people. It was probably 3-4 years.
3.5 years.
And then we finally branched out into
Official.
office space.
Yeah, brick and mortar, as they say. So I remember one of my good friends who was
For all three of us at that point.
Yeah, for all three of us. That's true. All three of us.
But it was crazy because even after we had the 3 employees, and once we moved out of the house and into that brick and mortar, it took off. It felt like we were constantly hiring because the business just kept growing.
Yeah, God richly blessed us beyond anything that we could have literally imagined. I know that we joke and say, imagine that. I always loved the imagine possibilities, but even back in the day during my father, which the initials for Traveling Tours International was TTI Travel, a lot of our guides and a lot of the people would call us ITT. Back then it was ITT Sheraton and things like that. And I just loved Imagine. And you were like, I love the name of Imagine and Tours and Travel. And there we are. It's Imagine Tours and Travel,
Exactly.
ITT. And as you know us as ITT World. So a lot of times people forget even to Imagine. It's just ITT World. So
We'll answer to all of them.
sure.
We're not
And
super
our-
picky about that.
No, and our website is ITT World.
Exactly.
So that gives you an idea there. However, I mean, when we decided that we wanted to start Imagine, what was one of the first things that we said that we wanted to do? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
That is a total on the spot.
Well, we knew that when we started Imagine, we wanted it to be his company.
Absolutely.
We wanted it to be everything to glorify God, and we wanted to be a faith-based company. And in all sincerity, there's a lot of ways to look at things like that when you call yourself a Christian company and doing things with integrity and Christian values. That doesn't mean that we're perfect. That doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes. That doesn't mean that we have control over everything. Only the Lord has control over everything. But
Absolutely.
I think sometimes people forget that we don't have control over it. I don't own the airlines. I don't own the cruise lines.
There are a lot of things that are outside of our control.
Right.
If we can do something about it, we do.
We do.
But,
Right.
I mean, we seek to honor God in everything that we do and every decision that we make. But like with anything, it is a business.
It's a business, and we have employees, and we have to pay them. We don't, unfortunately, have anybody that's volunteer. Nobody comes to the office and say, hey, I'd love to work for you for free today. So
No.
we do pay our employees, and we've got fantastic employees. And honestly, I even hate using the word employee because they're
Oh,
really
we're a family.
They're a family.
We
Exactly.
are totally a family, and that's how we look at it here.
Exactly. So it's totally different. We really are a big family. Many of our so-called family or employees have been with us for many, many years, which is phenomenal. And then over the course of time, we've also, experienced, as we all know, in the last 5 years, to say the least, we had COVID. Nobody had ever experienced a COVID or anything like that. So we weathered those storms. Thank you,
Right.
Jesus.
When the world shut down.
The world shut down, and we had groups traveling everywhere, and we were able to get them all back. So that was a blessing. And then COVID was 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. And we, as God would only have, persevered and continued, and it forced us to, look at things and refine and get better. And
Right.
we're constantly looking at refining
Correct.
and updating and what can we do better.
But listen, I mean, when we talk about the fact of weathering the storms, I mean, it's not just the COVIDs or the 9/11s. We're also talking about the fact that we specialize in a country that is full of ups and downs. There's never a truly, truly peaceful time period. I mean, there are times when it is more peaceful than others.
Right.
But as we witnessed
Sure.
back on October 7th, it's been,
Yes, 16, 17 months now.
yeah.
So, since the war started. Yep.
It's definitely an area that unfortunately has seen a lot of strife. But that's nothing new.
That's nothing new.
I mean, if we read our Bibles, we know that happens over and over again in Israel's.
Yeah, and just in the whole Middle East as a whole, we've
Yeah.
seen it. If you remember, there was the Arab Spring, the uprising that took place in Egypt. We remember that as well.
Yes.
And we had groups that were traveling as well. And we literally got the last group from North America out of Cairo on Delta Airlines, I remember. And they were at the airport, and they had shut down the airport and had the tanks literally on the runways, and everything was shut down. And
Absolutely. I'm sure that many of you that are out there watching this, whether live or replaying it back, you've probably been around and been with us for a while.
Yes.
So you've experienced these things. You've seen the ups and downs of travel, whether it be in the Middle East or in Europe
Right.
or any of the destinations that we travel to.
Correct. And, I mean, with that, kind of dating ourselves, because my father had a business even prior to the 9/11 since 1972. And we look back at that, putting that in perspective, we have clients that have been with us for 40 plus years doing business with us as
And
a
we
family.
appreciate every single one of those.
Yeah, maybe that's what we need to say again. And we appreciate every single one of those. So that's been pretty amazing. I mean, they've more aged out or retired out in most cases. But I would say probably most of the older ones are probably 30 plus years with us, which is exciting. And then
But it's exciting to see all the new and the younger people that are taking those first trips to Israel or to Greece or to any of our destinations in Europe. Even our river cruises that are our new product line that's coming out. So as everything else grows and evolves, we tend to grow and evolve and
We
do
have.
those things. So we're excited. We keep trying to figure out new ways to offer opportunities for people to be able to experience travel, whether if it's a biblical tour or a tour that you're taking with people from your community, from your church, from your college, to be able to experience a trip that is faith-based,
yes.
whether it's the destination or the people that you're with.
And I think you just nailed it. It's not always just the destination. It's the people that you're with. Because we've had some wonderful groups that have gone to destinations like the River Cruise, going to Europe. Now, they might have visited some churches, and there may be a little bit of spirituality there.
Absolutely.
But it's more when you ask the tour leader or the pastor, or even just the passengers, the individuals, they'll tell you the fellowship, the community, which is what you said, is the
Exactly.
biggest part. That's really why they're coming. and really to get to know people. And some of the impact that those trips have been incredible. I mean, I know even one of the pastors who traveled with us, he had a couple that had joined them on their trip. They had only recently started attending their church for a little while. And the week that they got back after the river cruise, the gentleman of the couple actually said, I want to be baptized.
That's
And
awesome. Those are
so
great
those are the
stories.
kind of things of why we do what we do.
We've got so many of those stories. I mean, so many. We could do a whole entire podcast just on some of those stories of how people have had major life impacts
Yes.
from engagements
Yes.
to, to weddings. We've had weddings on some of our trips.
We have
To, conversions.
conversions. Yeah. I mean, even in the beginning days,
Baptisms.
baptisms.
Just all kinds of fun stuff that we've heard about.
Yeah, even had on one trip that we had a priest and a nun,
nun.
who happened to be on the same trip, a wonderful trip many years ago.
And hopefully we're not offending any
Anybody?
of our Catholic viewers.
That's not the intent.
That was not the intent. It was a former priest and
Former
a
priest.
former nun.
Correct, but they later got married.
Yes.
So it's pretty wonderful. Really, really amazing to say the least.
And we even got to experience, I think my favorite is the baby announcement from
Yes.
some very special friends of ours that's where they chose to travel and announce that they were welcoming their first little one.
Yes. So, I mean, all of these different impacts, these are, when you talk about doing life and spending time with people,
Yeah.
this is what we do. So it's been amazing. I mean, one of the mottos or what we say, we want to honor God first and foremost. We want to impact lives, and we want to enrich faith.
Correct.
And that's really the principles that we have here at Imagine. So, I think a lot of people, it's on a lot of our taglines, honor God.
But it's not just a tagline.
Right. It's living it.
I mean, impacting lives. When you're taking a trip, those people that are with you, they're going to be your friends forever. I mean, we hear of reunion groups of people that get together and reminisce about their trips, after they've come back. They create lifelong friendships
Well,
when they travel together.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just with some friends over the weekend, and the same subject came up saying, remember when we traveled with you?
Yeah.
And they were talking about, that was 10 plus years ago, and then all of the different significant things that have happened since then, but it was because of traveling together and doing that. And then the biggest part is, in addition to, we talk about is the enriching faith.
Correct.
Which is, actually seeing the Bible come to life. And, of course, not just in Israel and so forth, which, of course, many of the scriptures were written there as well. But in addition to not only going to the places and seeing the Bible come alive, seeing the scriptures change from, we say it and you hear it all the time, from black and white to
Living color.
living color, it's 3D. You get to smell it, you get to taste it, you get to feel it when you're there, you get to meet the people. But it's not just Israel. I mean, Greece, and you look at the footsteps of Paul and his ministry and the different disciples and what people did to go out to share the gospel is exciting. And then the early Christian churches. Had they not been faithful to do what they did, we wouldn't necessarily have that to be able to read about to, help us increase our faith.
Exactly.
So, we take a lot of this for granted because here we are 2,000 plus years later and doing so. But when you really think about it, we have the New Testament. During that time, it was still the Old Testament. And when you really look back at even Thessalonians as a perfect idea of when Paul was preaching and doing things, this is when he was in Greece and, Macedonia, he was doing Philippi, he was talking at that time and talking to the churches. He was actually, if you remember, he had been beaten and then he had to move and he had to go to another location. Then he was beaten again and then he had to move and so forth. This was Paul.
Yes.
And of course, he was talking at that time to many of the Jewish believers as well as many people who were following idols. And they were referring to everything of when he was teaching about what had happened only, what is it, between a 25 to 40-year time period, I believe, in doing so after the death of Christ. Think about that. And then, of course, the whole joy of the resurrection with Jesus. But they didn't have what we have today, the New Testament, to be able to read all of those scriptures. They were seeing the conversions of people coming to Christ. They were experiencing it firsthand after that. So what started as just 12 disciples literally changed the world. So
it's kind of cool. I mean, we would never put ourselves in the category of the 12 disciples.
Never.
But we do like to think of the fact that when we started Imagine,
yes,
that it began as a dream, as something that was going to allow us to be able to encourage people to go over, to enrich their faith, to do those things. And it has, over the years, we've had so many travelers that have gone with us that have been able to experience something that they might not have been able to have experienced.
yes.
So I think that that's one of our big things as far as making that impact.
Yep. And it's the early Christian churches. It's not just the places that I've said. The beauty is there's so many destinations that you can go to today and experience and have, a real time of not only community, but you can have spiritual growth. You can actually see different parts of Scripture that we read and the significance of it today. It doesn't matter if you're just going to Greece, you're going to Italy, you're going to Turkey. Egypt has a tremendous amount as well, Jordan. And then, of course, the early Christian churches that continued on. You've got Scotland and Ireland and
Right.
the United Kingdom. So, literally all of that is tremendous. And then continue about the Reformation. So that's incredible too. So, we have so much to offer. It's incredible. I don't know that you could ever get bored with just one or two destinations.
No,
So,
I don't think so.
did you want to?
Well, I
Talk
didn't
about some
know if there
other-
were any questions
Okay,
that were
questions?
coming through.
We'll stop right there and do some questions.
It's nice to see that we've got some out there that have been repeat travelers with us.
Yes, that's wonderful.
So we thank you for trusting us for multiple trips.
Yeah, it's incredible. That's what we love to do, and we have a lot of fun doing it. It really is an extension or a ministry. It's a travel ministry,
Exactly.
and it's a great way for people to get together and just build community. So that's one of the reasons that we love to do it. You had mentioned just briefly that we have a new product.
We do have a new product.
So
We're very excited about that new product.
Yeah, we've been testing it now for a couple of years, and
Yes.
so we just put together I'll put this out there in front so you can actually see. This is our 48-page River Cruise collection, and it's really for 2026. I think we have only maybe one or two dates there for the Christmas market for the fall of 2025, and then everything else is 2026. But if you're watching this or if you see this later and you're interested in getting one of the first copies, we would love to hear from you. You can email us at info@ittworld, or you can email sales@ittworld.com, and we will, I think everybody knows the .coms, but you're right,
Sometimes.
.com, and we will send you one of the first copies. Literally, it just came available this last week. So we'd love to send you a copy if you're interested, whether you're just individuals and you like to join one of our groups that we have dates on, you're welcome to do so. Or if you're a pastor or a professor or somebody like that who likes to take groups and lead groups, we'd love to hear from you so you can book your own travel dates and destination. But with the river cruises, we've got, I want to say, 28 different dates that are available. And 5 different rivers that we're advertising.
We do, and we actually have one. I saw a question that popped up there that somebody was asking if we have anything that goes to Spain. And we do.
It's mostly Portugal,
Mostly Portugal, but you still are going to Spain.
and it's one of the best.
But we just experienced that one. I think we talked about that in a previous
Yes.
talk when we were talking especially about our river cruises. But that is
The
on the
Douro.
Douro River.
Yep, the Douro River. We did it personally.
But it is one of those things that if you do have questions, to absolutely, our staff here is, we think they're one of the best.
Yeah.
So if you call in, it's funny. I mean, we talk about the fact of where we started, and we started from like this, two of us, and then we had an employee, and we had three of us, and then we have expanded, and I mean, we've like, what?
Well,
I
we
don't know what
our,
the math calculation is. That's sad. I do all the numbers, but
I mean, today we have 18 employees. Before COVID, I think we got to as many as 26 employees.
I believe so.
And then we cut back during COVID, which we needed to since nobody was traveling for 2 years. And then we rehired some back, and then we hired some new ones based on that. But we also learned to be a little more efficient. And that was one of the things that we did too during that time of COVID from our development. And we have a developer on staff who actually helps us to be a little more efficient with our systems and so
Right.
forth, which is great.
But I mean, we've had so many good people
Sure.
that have worked for us over the years.
Incredible.
Worked with us, not necessarily for us. And while we're always sad to see some of them depart, we know that they're usually going on to bigger and better things. And we rejoice with them, and we encourage them to do
Or they
that.
have babies,
Or they have babies. We love babies.
or some of them have gone on even to ministry. So it's been kind of neat. And we're still looking for one more person.
We are
We're-
hiring.
Since we're doing it, we're hiring for our airline department.
Yes.
And what's unique about that is, yes, you do have to be in-house. It's not a remote job. So let me repeat that. We get lots and lots of emails, and thank you for those, but it is a remote. You need to be here in Lakeland, Florida, in the office, because it's a real hands-on in doing so.
Yes.
Because the airlines is ever-changing, and so we're just still a little bit old school.
Yeah.
We still like to have it in-house in that sense, but
And that's just another one of those things. I mean, we start talking and we start thinking about all of the changes and just
Yeah.
how the business itself has evolved over the years and how the airlines have changed and things that, I mean, we laugh about the fact that prior to 9/11, how many of y'all remember being able to go to the airport and walk with your loved one all the way to the gate and say goodbye to them?
yes.
Now
when
you can't even get past security with them.
Or
But
when the group would arrive, we were able to meet the groups in Chicago during that time
Yeah.
and walk them actually from the domestic terminal to the international terminal. Imagine being able to do that today. If you don't have a
Yeah.
boarding pass, you can't get to the gates.
So, I mean, there were so many good things that we
Yes.
used to be able to do. We understand.
For security and
Yeah, and
TSA.
remember, there used to be the smoking sections on the planes,
Oh
which
my goodness.
were a little laughable if we're really being honest, because there was a curtain that separated the smoking and the non-smoking section.
If you even had a curtain.
If you
a
even
lot
had
of
a
times
curtain.
it stopped at row 20, and then from 21 onward would be non-smoking, or that would be the smoking section. And
Right.
for whatever reason, the smoke didn't know where the part
Where
of
it
the
was
cabin
supposed to
started
stop.
and where it ended, or the seats. So that was the good old days.
So, I mean, we've seen so many changes with that. But I mean, the beauty is in those other areas, though, I mean, we've used some of the same hotels
Yes.
that have continued to kind of update themselves over the years.
They
and then there are
renovate
some
and update.
amazingly beautiful new hotels that we're able to offer to our groups. No matter what your price range is,
Correct.
depending what you're looking for, we can find you good hotels that will fit whatever budget you have.
I mean, the majority of our hotels are going to be, as we would say, a 4-star, 4-star plus. Some call that a first class or superior first class. But we have some really excellent 3-star hotels too, if somebody has a budget and they're like, we really need to keep the costs down, but we still want something nice and clean and good locations. And we have some great properties. And
Right.
then for those that are willing, and that's the ones that are willing to pay a little bit more and upgrade more to a deluxe level, that's a pretty neat thing too. So there's options for a 5-star. But
Right.
those are the kind of things, and that's one of the things that I think, when you talk about us and Imagine, is we're constantly checking out properties and looking for you so that we can share with you what we find and provide you with those updates. So we're very hands-on in that sense.
Correct. And we always make sure that it will be a rare thing for you to find someone in our office that has not traveled overseas to at least one of the destinations that we offer. That way they have firsthand knowledge on how things operate once you get over there, what happens once you get off the plane, to be able to have that experiences of some of the sites so that they can talk to you firsthand and really let you know what it's like. And I think that kind of sets us apart
Yes.
from some of the others because, I mean, obviously, you can do this without ever having traveled overseas, but we think that it's important, and so that's one of the things that we value is making sure that our staff is educated by experience.
Yes. Well, and what makes us different than other companies? Well, there's a lot of things that make us different. Those who have traveled with other companies and then have traveled with Imagine usually tell us, first and foremost, it's how hands-on we are. The fact that they actually can contact us and get an immediate answer.
Correct.
That's probably first and foremost. And if we don't know the answer, we're able to check into it for them and then also get you an answer within usually 24 hours, provided the answer's out there to be found based on it. It's not just the fact that we're, very involved and in tune with what's going on. Mm-hmm. Our partners of who we work with in each one of the respective countries as well, they're excellent. We don't have a bad partner. We know them. We're not just feeding out business as some companies that are really just looking at their bottom line. That's not how we operate our business.
No, I mean, and it is a business.
It is a business.
But we're always, we consider ourselves more of a boutique brand.
We're a boutique brand.
We want to be able to customize the trip to fit your needs. And so to that, we make sure that we're staffed fully. When you call here and you talk to us, you're going to talk to us. You might have to leave us a message if
you call on a Friday and we're not here because we work 4/10s Monday through Thursday. And we're not really, but if you email us on a Friday, you'll definitely get an answer. And then, of course, our office is back on a Monday. And of course, there's people in here working at times, but our phone system isn't always on unless there's an emergency.
But someone will always call you back.
Yes.
You will get to speak to a real person.
Correct.
We've never believed in automating a lot of those types of things because we want you to have that personal experience because we do consider that everybody that contacts us, we value. You're a real person, so you should be able to talk to a real person.
Absolutely. And we try to do that. And again, we're not perfect. I know there's times people will say, well, I didn't get the email. And then all of a sudden we'll ask, well, maybe it's in your junk or spam file. And all of a sudden they'll say, oh, yep, you're right. I've got 2 or 3 in there.
We do our best to over-communicate.
We try to.
So that you don't have a lot of questions. But if you do have questions, call us.
Right.
Email us.
Right. We love questions. We really do. The more that we can do to help assist you, if we know what your needs are and your expectations, it's much easier to be able to serve you. When we don't know, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but we're not a mind reader. We don't always know. We try to be very proactive. We want to put fires out before they happen. We try to take care of everything we can, but sometimes there's assumptions that are made, and that's why good communication is definitely needed. And
Absolutely.
We always say, even though we have a wonderful phone call, we'd prefer to have it in writing because it's great to have a paper trail. It's good to have everybody involved, and you can see our responses to your questions.
Absolutely.
So,
and if you want to get just a little bit more personal with us or check us out, go to our website. I know that we've mentioned that before, but if you go to ittworld.com, there is an About Us area.
yes.
And you'll be able to see the smiling faces of the people that you're working with here. So take a look. You'll be able to see who it is that you've had an opportunity to speak to.
Is there any other questions that have come up?
I don't think I see anything new right now.
It's great to see some of the different things going on.
Okay.
So we just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We'll do another one again in the future. we'll do like a follow-up one.
A follow-up one.
Yeah, just to touch on a few other things, but
Okay.
maybe what makes you imagine a little more unique, or our different types of trips that we do that are more customized. So things like
Or
that.
maybe you'll have me back on here after our next river cruise and we can tell you all about that one.
That sounds
I
perfect.
think I'm trying to figure out a way to maybe take you guys along with us virtually a little bit. So stay tuned. We might have a surprise for you.
That would be wonderful. So thank you for listening, and imagine that. We'll see you in another week.